Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hindustan Times webinar Build a Future Ready Finance Career. Today, we explore the ever evolving world of finance, a field rich with dynamic career opportunities and significant growth potential. Let me throw some data at you. According to data from the National Career Services portal of the central government, India created, believe it or not, 4.6 million jobs in financial services last year. However, only 2.75 million of these positions were filled, leaving approximately 1.8 million jobs vacant due to a lack of adequately skilled candidature. With the right skill sets, a career in finance can be immensely rewarding, offering lucrative salaries and the opportunity to drive economic progress. Today, the finance industry, of course, is undergoing a profound transformation. We all know it, with technological advancements like AI, automation, and big data analytics redefining how we work and create value. Now, these changes bring both opportunities and challenges, making continuous professional development essential. To thrive in these dynamic landscapes, staying up to date with the latest tools and technologies is very crucial. And beyond technical proficiency, cultivating a mindset of lifelong learning and adaptability is really the key. Advanced skills are a must to navigate and leverage these technological advancements, ensuring a successful and future ready finance career. Now, to help us understand how one can navigate and excel in this field, we are honored to have three very distinguished speakers with us today. Let me welcome Rob Langrick, CFA, CIPM, Chief Product Advocate at CFA Institute. Bringing a wealth of experience from his roles both at Bloomberg and CFA Institute, Rob plays a very important and instrumental role in overseeing annual curriculum updates to the CFA program and very significantly contributing to the Institute's mission of developing future finance leaders. Now, before joining, um, did you lose me for a second there? Yeah, I'm back. So Rob successfully led Bloomberg's finance education division, where he built and launched Bloomberg certification product, BMC, which has now garnered 1 million designation holders. And he began his career as a sell-side equity research analyst in London, and after earning his MBA from Dartmouth, worked in the private equity diligence unit of Bain and Company in New York. Welcome, Rob. Welcome to this webinar.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Let me introduce you to Vaibhav Jain, CFA, CMT, Head of Business for Equities and Content at SharedotMarket by PhonePe. And with over a decade of experience in the finance industry, Vaibhav brings valuable expertise in market trends and educational strategies, equipping finance professionals with essential tools for success. Weber began his career as an investment banker with Deutsche Bank, working across dynamic geographies of Australia and India. And subsequently, he managed a substantial portfolio worth over $20 million at Ed Louise before playing a pivotal role in the growth of Wealth Desk, a leading SaaS-based investment platform, which was later acquired by PhonePe. Vaibhav is an active volunteer with CFA Society India, contributing to the advancement of financial education and ethical practices. As a CFA and CMT charter holder, he possesses a deep understanding of financial analysis and market strategies. Vaibhav, welcome to the webinar, and get ready for all the questions coming your way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And thirdly, we are joined with Lokesh Mrig. Lokesh is a CFA, FRM, and Managing Director of Quantitative Research and Solutions at State Street Global Advisors India. He is a very seasoned investment professional with over 15 years of experience in quantitative research and portfolio management. He has a proven track record in building and leading high performance teams across global equity, fixed income, and multi asset strategies. And prior to joining as a GA, Lokesh held key roles at MSCI, Motilal Oswal Securities, Jones Lang LaSalle, and at MSCI, he played a pivotal role in developing innovative active ETFs for institutional clients. He has also worked as a quantitative portfolio manager with Motilal Oswal Securities, Principal Investments Group, and as an alternative investment analyst at Jones Lang LaSalle. All right. Gentlemen, let's begin our discussion. My first question is for all of you. Vaibhav, why don't we start with you? How have you seen the financial space evolve in the last few years? Some of the factors that have contributed to these changes. What are some of the trends that you saw in the last few years?
Hey, thanks for the question, Mugda. See, basically, as you already started the conversation with, that technological advancements have actually been, kind of impacting each and every industry, not only financial services. Obviously, it has touched financial services in a big way, and gladly, I bring an experience across four different industries over here, being having worked in investment banking, wealth management, wealth tech, and now a discount broker. And in all the four industries in the past decade, I have seen how quickly, kind of these advancements in technology has been completely changing the industry. And I mean, just taking an example for in 2014, when I started my career in investment banking at Deutsche, we were making presentations. One slide used to take a couple of hours. But now, because of the advancement in technology, I mean, these things can be done in 15 minutes if you have the concepts ready. So obviously, this is one of the important thing which we have seen evolving in the last few years. Another thing which comes into my mind is the regulatory change. Now, if we see from the India perspective, in the last couple of years or 3 4 years, the SEBI, the capital markets regulator, has become very active. And every other day, every other week, we keep seeing, kind of new regulations keep coming in, obviously for the betterment of the retail investor. Now, as a financial professional, financial services professional, one needs to be, kind of very flexible and adaptive in these kind of changing situations. Um, Customer expectation is another thing which we can think of a point. I mean, people might be okay with. I mean, asset classes used to be very very small 20 years back or 30 years back, but now with the increasing kind of penetration and again new products coming in, there is a whole lot of kind of uh, options and choices for the customers. These 3 4 points come into my mind. I mean, I'll let the other guys also chip in over here.
Right. Lokesh, what do you have to say? Many years working in the markets, seeing the changes, developing products, not just here but across globe. What do you have to say? What according to you, are some of the most important changes that sort of took place in the last couple of years, which are now redefining the entire sector?
Yeah, thanks, Mugda, for the question. I believe, I think the influence of geopolitics over the last couple of years is really significantly affecting how financial firms, invest, make decisions, hiring decisions, and how they operate. It's kind of leading to deglobalization in terms of their operating model, and this trend is definitely exacerbated by U.S.-China tensions, Middle East war, Ukraine war, and now, of course, I mean, looking at what's happening in Bangladesh. So I think how firms think about where they expand, where they will invest, and whom they hire, how they hire is being redefined as a result of these ongoing geopolitical tensions. And I think it will continue to be there for at least few more years. I think maybe throughout the decade. So that's one important point. I'll say that. And in terms of, I think AI and ML, I mean, they are definitely these advanced techniques are definitely being more adopted now for fraud detection, risk assessment. Algorithmic trading is all over the place, and most importantly, I think personalized financial advice is also rising as a result of some of these techniques. So we are seeing that increased adoption, and I'm not even talking about generative AI right now. I'm talking about the pre-generative AI and ML, and I think as Webb rightly mentioned, regulations are playing a very important role in terms of how some of these technologies and digital currencies and cybersecurity is regulated. So that's definitely redefining the financial space. And lastly, the consumer behavior post COVID, it's been the pace of digital adoption has been humongous. Not only in India, across the globe, we are seeing that, and consumers are asking for increasingly personalized product and services. And the first phase was they were adopting applications. The second phase is they want to select something which suits them. So I think that's really changing rapidly over the last couple of years. Yeah. So I'll stop there.
True.
Yeah.
Rob, let me bring you here. You just heard from both the gentlemen about the very important changes, and I think they summarized it so beautifully about the changes that have happened, especially in the last 2-3 years. We haven't seen that kind of change in the last perhaps 10 years as much as we have seen in the last perhaps 2-3 years post COVID. And of course, COVID was pandemic was a very defining moment for everybody, from consumer point of view as well, from industry point of view as well. Uh, as somebody who was also looking at the academics of it, what were some of the changes that you saw, and how quickly had the industry had to adapt to these changes? Do you think they are totally there, or there is a lot of room, or there's a journey to be made, especially from the academia point of view?
It's interesting you put it that way. I would say we sort of had a rehearsal for quick change across the whole industry with the ESG boom, which really sort of picked up in the late part of the last decade. And so we, with the CFA program curriculum, which is kind of like the Gray's Anatomy for finance, the main textbook, as it were, we can observe the changes through that prism. And with ESG, we had to quickly kind of pepper ESG topics throughout the whole curriculum. So, for example, it's expressed in green bonds. You'll do supply chain analysis to make sure you know where things come from that go to build other products, for example. And so it really kind of crossed over the whole industry, ESG. And what we saw with AIML is the whole process happening, that 7-year process happening in sort of 2 years. And so now the big hunt now with AIML is getting away from just talking about ChatGPT. What we're seeing is very discrete use cases go across the workflow. So, for example, a portfolio manager now has a new tool which summarizes portfolio performance every quarter and does like a 3-hour job in 1 minute with several kind of external toolkits. Or an equity analyst who's listening every quarter to CEOs, CFOs talking on those calls can summarize them and ask the robot questions to very quickly get the insights, whereas before it would take them several hours. And so what you're seeing, we're getting past the hype now into very specific use cases, but really for lots of different job roles and lots of different use cases through the workflows.
Right. Gentlemen, I think we have all very wonderfully summarized some of the changes that have happened. And I think a lot of our viewers must be wondering that, in light of the dynamic nature of these financial careers, how important it is now to continuously update the skills and knowledge. Vaibhav, let me start with you by asking, there are a lot of times when, even in my profession, I feel that I need to make those changes. I need to keep learning. But when we are talking about financial careers, there seems to be a huge amount of change also on the regulatory front. How do you summarize that? And of course, because of that, it's becoming almost inevitable that you can't really work with the degrees that you had earned so many years ago.
This is similar in our industry as well. Today, also after 10 years of experience, I keep on, kind of reading every day something new. Is my voice echoing?
No, we are fine. We can hear you.
Sure, sorry. So what I was saying is that even after 10 years, I keep on reading every day because, see, what I see as a competition in my, obviously in my finance career, is not someone who is my age with 10 years experience, or kind of getting that kind of experience in the various industries. My real competition is that 20-21-year-old guy sitting in an IIT, in a tech college, in a dorm, or a lab, or making some kind of an app which will completely disrupt of what I am doing almost on an everyday basis. Right. So, because as he said in the first question, the technological advancement is something which is currently changing the entire landscape of not only this industry, but all the industries. We, as a financial services professionals, need to constantly update ourselves, upskill ourselves in these fields. And as Rob rightly was mentioning, I mean, the con calls, the analyst calls, I mean, it used to take us hours and hours to go through, either be there, keep on listening for 1-2 hours, or just read the transcript. And now just writing a query on a chat GPT or any such kind of related tools, and you get an answer in 5 minutes. If you are not updating yourself as to how these tools and latest trends tools are working, then obviously you are out. So you need to be adaptive to all these changes, and you can only be when you constantly keep reading. I completed my CFA in 2013, so it's been like 11 years, and honestly, now I look at the curriculum, it has been completely changed as well. I mean, great that CFA Institute constantly keeps us, kind of sending a lot of refresher materials and all, because obviously there is a need. And if you look at my trajectory, I mean, after completing my MBA and CFA, I thought to keep upskilling myself by giving a CMT as well. I mean, so this is very much important. Another thing which is very important and which I've seen not a lot of youngsters focus on, because it's not a part of curriculum, is actually focus on the soft skills. It might not be needed 10, 20 years back in a financial services industry, especially in an industry like a wealth management, which I've been a part of for 3 years at Edelweiss. But these soft skills are very important now when you are dealing with customers, whether B2B or B2C. So something, another thing which is constantly, kind of evolving. Again, taking a cue from the last question, the compliance, the risk management, the legal thing. I mean, you cannot, and with all the kind of scams and scandals which keep on happening, the regulator will continue to bring in more strictness, because they will find that people have found a loophole, and then they'll try to kind of bridge those things. And with the regulator also becoming a lot smarter now, people need to kind of keep the ethics intact and work ethically. These all things I think have changed in the last 10 years while I have been working. And then obviously I've read a lot of case studies, books and all. Late 90s, early 2000s, things were very different now what we currently look at. So my suggestion to all the youngsters who are watching this is, or not only youngsters, but everybody, like keep
True.
upskilling. There's no other alternative.
Thanks, Weber, for that. Lokesh, would you want to add to this and also perhaps answer this question, which is, are there any particular areas? I mean, regulation, of course, seems to be one, as Weber rightly said, but are there any other particular areas within the domain of finance and investment management that are expected to experience significant growth or disruption in coming years also, especially with the rise of technology and automation in finance industry? And how can professionals ensure they remain relevant?
Yeah, thanks, Mugdha. So I'll focus on investment management because that's been my primary domain. So I think the rise of low-cost passive and ETF products, I think, could pose increased competition for high-active strategies right now in India. I mean, this trend has been there globally for last 5, 10 years, and it's just beginning in India. And we will see a shift from a distribution-led business model to more advisory model in India. And I think the trend will be similar to what we are seeing in US and other developed markets. That's one. Secondly, alternative private markets or alternative assets in India are projected to experience substantial growth because they give you a promise of alpha as well as with a reduced volatility. So more and more, I think clients, especially at affluent HNI level and now affluent level, are willing to take exposure to alternative private assets, private equity, private credit, real estate. So this has been a on the global scale, there has been a consistent increase in allocation towards private investments, and this is expected to persist throughout the decade and it will replicate in India. I think if you are in private markets, I think it's a great place to be right now. And coming to fintech, the fintechs led robo investing platforms, and it's gaining more traction. There's more interest, but I think the growth of such solutions would be limited without the human interaction. I mean, we are. I mean, it's all. I mean, all these tools and technology works very well when the markets are rising. When you're seeing profit, when the market crashes, as in last 2 days, it's very important to have a trustworthy person to confide in rather than relying on the market rumors and social media. So I believe a technology-enabled client and advisor interaction will pay for the leading firms and will be an opportunity both on technology front as well as on the investment advisory space as a result of these changes. And I believe finance professionals can stay relevant. I think Vaibhav covered quite a few good points. I'll just like to add embrace technology. As I think learn to use new technologies and tools. I think it's very important. We talk about no programming, low programming tools, but I believe programming will continue to be very relevant if you want to innovate and introduce custom products. So if you are in a technology domain, if you are programming, don't leave that skill set. Continue to enhance that. That's important. I think build a strong network. That's important. A network with peers, mentors, and industry leaders to stay informed. about the latest developments. And I think be adaptable. I think it's very important. As Vaibhav mentioned, it's rightly mentioned, it's constantly changing. So be prepared to adapt. And lastly, I will say seek mentorship and focus on gaining relevant practical experience through internships at the start of the career. Then focusing on compensation. I'll say that. Yeah. So I'll stop here.
Yeah, I think the last point you mentioned, which is about mentorship, is so important because a lot of times it is the peer-to-peer interaction and networking opportunities that help you identify problems together in the industry and come up with solutions, or actually come up with the know-how or a technical sort of an intervention that somebody else is using and you can use. But it all boils down to are you coming together as that collective? Where are you finding these opportunities? Are you meeting enough and more people, or are you staying in your silos? Rob, thank you for patiently waiting while the gentlemen were chiming in. One of the things that I always wondered about is the kind of pressure that is put on academia about adapting to the changes and the demands that the industry puts at them. What sets CFA Institute investment foundations and other data science certifications offered by CFA Institute apart from similar offerings in the market? How do these courses cater to the specific needs of professionals? And of course, the tougher question is how many manas go in looking at these curriculum and changing these curriculum and making them market ready all the time?
Well, that's what we do. That's the service we provide. So the main thing we do is we shadow the industry. So we have bodies of knowledge for all relevant products we offer. And so we have to make sure continually that they're up to date and reflect the current knowledge, skills, abilities required for the job roles they focus on. So going to investment foundations briefly, the kind of magic there is it's really a shrunken down version of level 1 of the CFA program. But instead of a 180 question quiz, it's got a 100 question quiz. It's less mathematical. It's not a proctored test, but it really is a miniature version of level 1. And so that's really what distinguishes it from other introductory products, that it really is kind of a gentle on-ramp to the CFA program, which is the main credential in finance. I'd say on data science, the kind of thing that distinguishes that is the fact that it really does connect nicely to the other offerings of the CFA program. So what we're not trying to do, we're not trying to teach people to be coders. That's not really an area where we believe we can kind of, that's not really our space to play in. But our space is really about what do you need to know about AI machine learning to be an effective investment professional, to communicate with data scientists, to communicate with clients about how to kind of expose these concepts to them. And how it's relevant for different parts of the workflow. So it really does. We really are sticking to our niche in terms of the investment space and the investment management space with those two products specifically. So they're not just kind of generic introductory products, but they do link to the investments industry.
Rob, you did mention you shadow the industry and figure what needs to be done and how these how the chartership sort of solves the issue of the market, because that's what the industry leaders are also looking at, people who are coming with that kind of the knowledge body. How does CFA Institute evaluate and update its curriculum to the technological changes? For example, you have practice learning on Python, etc. How often does that review happen?
Mm-hmm. We review it continually, and so we change about 10 to 15% of the CFA program each and every year. We've been doing that since 1963, so that's certainly a key thing. So if you look at a finance textbook, for instance, they typically come out with a new edition every 3 to 4 years. We have a new edition every year. In terms of technology, that's a really interesting question. So we actually look at the tools professionals use, and we're actually very obsessed, I would say, with new features and functions on those tools. So, for example, take the Bloomberg Terminal, for instance. They're continually coming out with new applications, new functions within the Bloomberg Terminal, and we track those new things coming out by way of example. And that tells us kind of what the things investors are focusing on. So, for instance, in the last few years, there's been lots of analytics on supply chain for companies, on their ESG scores across different dimensions. There have been new tools Bloomberg launched. And that's a hint to us that the reason Bloomberg launched them is because investors demanded them. That's just one of the techniques we use to make sure we stay on the cutting edge of technology.
Vaibhav, Lokesh, from an industry point of view, where do you see all of these certifications that are offered in the market come together? What are some of the flaws that you see in them? How important is it for a professional at any age to how important it is for them to look at the right kind of education that they are giving themselves? We'll start with you, Lokesh.
Thanks, Mugdha. So, as a recruiter, as an industry practitioner, we look at CFA program, which has very high level of rigor, and it kind of helps equip individuals with valuable tools. So, which is great, and also most importantly, I think it demonstrates your dedication towards career in financial markets and showcases your competitiveness and work ethics. These are the qualities highly valued by hiring managers. So, you are either studying or working, and you're pursuing this CFA program. It demonstrates your commitment to the industry. So, which is very attractive to hiring managers. Also, I think you can always leverage networking opportunities which comes along with CFA program, access to cutting edge research and content learning resources. To date, I continue to leverage thought leadership coming out from CFA Institute, which is very valuable even today to my on my day-to-day job. And most importantly, I think the CFA program emphasizes a very strong ethical foundation through its curriculum. Across all three levels, there is a very strong emphasis on ethics, and I think it's great, and it really helps promote integrity and ethical behavior, which is a must for the financial services. I think in terms of flaws, I would say that I would have found a lot of flaws, but thanks to Rob and the leadership of CFA Institute, they have really recently upgraded the CFA curriculum significantly. It's more practical. There are more valuable tools. They're practicums, so I wouldn't, uh, like point any, I think flaws at this time. I'm very happy with how the CFA Institute is progressing, even with their data science certification. They've introduced private market certification, which is a very important industry area right now. So a lot of positive steps, and I would recommend, I think, the attendees of this call to kind of evaluate pursuing relevant CFA certifications. Yeah.
Yeah, right. In fact, when I was talking about the overall, what works and what doesn't work, I was talking about the larger market because there are so many certifications and there are so many institutes that are claiming that, they are offering all kinds of diplomas, etc. And that's why it becomes so important for a candidate to look at what they are getting into because there are so many education courses these days in the market in the name of skill development that are perhaps not keeping up with the demand of the market and it's just another tick mark. But that is what we tell our viewers all the time that whenever you are getting into an upgrade of sorts in your education, you need to do your research, you need to speak to peers, you need to see what they have, what the recruiters are looking for, as you rightly said. Weber, was that one of the reasons for you to do a CFA chartership?
Mugdha, honestly, I'll put one point before that. Kind of, I've observed that a
Sure.
lot of people in colleges and MBAs and all generally give all these exams for the CV point, for the resume point. Kind of, if they have something
True.
extra, probably get a call from a recruiter. Although that's obviously is true, and me being on the other side of the table now, recruiting people for my content education, and then I support research team as well over here. So I need people who are skilled in finance. Certifications do give an edge. I did my certification. I started my CFA back in 2010, and the only idea, honestly, that time was, what can finance offer me? I mean, after level 1, I was just thinking, is there anything more to finance? Then I did level 2, and then I did level 3 as to now what? What can be the thing? So it was all about learning new, kind of new things back then. I would suggest people to again, kind of look into certification programs from this angle, not from the CV or
Right.
resume angle. Secondly, obviously you're right in saying that there are plentiful of certifications right now available, and there's always a confusion which is better. Should I do CFA or should I do there are a lot of other certifications as well. So there's also a constant need for the CFA Institute and other institute to kind of rightly let people know if they are writing this exam or writing this program, what are they getting into, right? Because right now people are confused. Uh, uh, Whether we should do this or we should do that, they need to understand that finance has a lot of verticals, and not every certification would be applicable for every vertical where they are getting into. I mean, if they want to get into the technical analysis of the thing, there's a CMT. If they're going to get into a very holistic, ethically, like investment management, then obviously there's a CFA program. So yeah, so this is what my suggestion for people would be, and always look for the best what is being offered. And currently I believe CFA program is one of the best out there, globally accepted.
Wonderful to hear that. Um, Let me put one question to all the three of you gentlemen. While there's a strong focus on upskilling younger professionals, we are also seeing mid-level and senior executives looking for specific skills. They are seeking to acquire more skills to remain competitive in the evolving landscape. Of course, then there is increasing demand for independent board members who just don't have the knowledge and abilities, but also hands-on experience, right? Um, what is what does this resource pool look for when they are looking to upskill themselves and upgrade their degrees? Vaibhav?
See, again, this flows from my initial comment that my competition is sitting in an IIT dorm room. When he starts working under me, I need to also be aware as to what kind of technology are available today where he or she might be working on. And for that reason, I don't think so that at this age that execution is important. I mean, obviously, if you have not coded in your entire life, nobody is expecting at a managerial level that you start learning coding, right? So obviously Lokesh put up a point over there, but understanding of how the coding is done, understanding of how the technology works is very important for the senior management as well. Now what happens is that after 10-15 years into the industry, you become a lot rigid, that kind of, I don't have time, I don't have resources, and I don't have the willingness to learn something new, something more. But honestly, every day is a bit new day and a challenging day for me in my office, because I have a bunch of 20, 25-year-old guys, technologically very advanced, bringing new things almost on an everyday basis. And I need to, kind of tell them that what is right and what is not right in order to, kind of complete some work. Another thing which is obviously there from the senior leadership is expectation of a change management. I mean, obviously the processes are changing, but this change management will this change in kind of the work ethic, work culture will always be a top down approach. I mean, you need to drive innovation as a senior member, and then that gets drilled down into the younger team. I mean, you don't want to be looked separately by your team as that these guys are doing very traditional approach, but I can do this 10x in a faster way. So obviously these things are also important. On the question of the board member, independent board member, which you brought up, I am presuming, kind of all these independent board members are actually are on the board of several different companies, not just one or two, and most likely they are from the different industries. They can be, I mean, obviously. And as we all agreed in the start, that technology is getting into each and every industry. It's not only financial services, but everywhere, right? So along with the technical abilities which these independent board members should have, they also should have the requisite knowledge about each and every industry and how technology can play a part in their respective industries. Upskilling is the only one mantra which I can think of. How you can do that, there are hundreds of avenues. What suits you as a mid or senior level management is what you need to pick up and understand. The good thing, at least with these senior people, are like they know that what is going on in the industry, rather than that IITian who doesn't even have a corporate experience. That makes it simpler for them.
True. Lokesh, do you see people have the mindset? Sometimes it's also about, oh, I know everything, I don't need to learn, and then you find yourself in a space where you're struggling. And as Weber rightly said, that when youngsters come, they come armed with the more knowledge. Do you think that mindset is also changing, and more people are now feeling the need that even if I am at this top-notch level, I need to still upskill myself? or is that a generalization of sorts, and people are still having that little hiccupy road towards unlearning and learning?
So I think I agree with Vaibhav. I think especially I'll again go to it's a post-COVID and a pre-COVID era. Post-COVID, the rise of technology and what happened with the economy in general. I think that kind of forced people to rethink about how they want to learn, stay upskilled, stay relevant. I see that mindset changing rapidly across industry where I operate. And I think for investment management industry, it's very important given the technological changes. So that's mindset definitely changing. That was not so much, I think I'll say pre-COVID. And also I think for the middle management and senior management to stay relevant, I'll suggest a LAN framework, learn, adapt, and network. I think continuous learning, there's no going, I mean, you can't just run away from there. You need to continue to learn, stay updated, uh, read as much as possible the relevant content. And as Weber mentioned, there's a lot out there, so you have to do your research. Adaptability is very important. You might see different scenarios as a result of regulations or geopolitical uncertainties, what might come at you, you don't know. So it should be okay to adapt and be ready to face changes. Networking is very important, I believe. It helps you keep updated what's happening in industry, what changes are coming, and it of course ensures that you have access to right career opportunities. Yeah, I think that's important. And I think if you look at these resources here in CFA Institute from investment management perspective, yes, uh, you can you have continuous learning ecosystem in terms of new certifications and curriculum. Then you have a networking opportunities as a result of conferences, events. So there is that those tools are available. So definitely, the CFA Institute ecosystem provides that, all via that land framework I was talking about. And definitely and more financial services firm are looking to have diversification in their board membership, and especially having women member on the board in India globally is something very touted. And that's where I think these
Right.
certifications come in handy. It will give you an exposure, it will enhance your credentials. I won't say that it will just make qualify you, but it will give you like a good footing if you are coming from a different industry to be eligible to be a board member in a financial services firm. So I'll say from investment management perspective, I mean, the CFA curriculum and CFA Institute tools are quite valuable. Yeah.
Very important point raised there by you, Lokesh, about how somebody who is coming on a board leadership role and needs to upskill themselves with something which inherently has not been their field, this comes up as a great option for them to not just upskill themselves, but also understand about the world of investment management that they are getting into. Rob, if I may get you in, coming to specifically regulatory compliances, how critical is it to understand and comply with global financial regulations for career advancement? Because now we are seeing cross border work happening almost every single day. Every financial industry is working with global financial institutes, and regulations are a part of. Of that compliance narrative. Um, how do you also look at it uh, from developing curriculum point of view?
So the reality is, well, first of all, there's very few truly global financial regulations. They're mostly kind of jurisdictional and related to a single jurisdiction. And also, there are some examples where frankly, the culture has been that many firms will just follow the highest standard. So take GDPR, for instance, in Europe. Many firms will just apply it globally for simplicity to avoid getting into confusion and getting into tricky situations. So in many cases, people will simply adopt the highest standards because that's actually the cheapest thing to do, funnily enough, which means that then you're going to have to learn about GDPR globally. Many firms will kind of do that training, I would say. So from our curriculum perspective, we are not a jurisdictional curriculum. That would mean it would have to be much longer than even 9,000 pages. I'm not sure either we or the candidates want it to be much more than that. And so we're not a jurisdictional product, we're a global product. And so we'll give you global principles that underlie many of the regulations. And we do have our code and standards, which is the Hippocratic Oath, as it were, in the financial sector, which is non-jurisdictional or cross-jurisdictional. So yeah, we're not trying to provide the local jurisdictional regulation. So there are some fine credentials. Let's say in private wealth will do just that, and that's their space to play in. That's not sort of the thing we offer. So yeah, we sort of don't provide jurisdictional regulation. We provide it at a very kind of light level. So that's not really a space we play in with the CFA program.
Wonderful. Before I move ahead, I'll just make a quick announcement. If you have any questions, shoot them in. We will try taking them towards the end. And if you have specific question to one of the three gentlemen, also tell us who do you want that question to be addressed to. All right, taking the same question forward with you, Vaibhav. Where do you see regulatory compliance, and where do you also see the international markets and understanding of international markets? Are there any specific steps that people can take to broaden their knowledge and adapt to different market conditions?
See, it's important, no doubt, because now more and more cross-border transactions are anyways happening, and it has increased over a period of time anyways. I remember, kind of 10, 15 years back, there were a lot of global companies, especially, developed economies like US, UK, which used to acquire companies in India. But of late, we have seen even Indian companies going out and acquiring companies globally. So the professionals working in investment banking, merchant banking domain, who are kind of leading these transactions, they ought to know the regulations. They ought to know the rules of the different kind of economy, different country where they are probably going to operate or doing a transaction with. Another thing which I've observed is that if we leave apart the kind of globally certified programs like CFA program, in normal graduation or even in MBAs in India, students are not taught the global regulations much. And then when they come out of colleges with kind of only a theoretical knowledge of things, and then obviously they are bombarded with, boss, you need to follow these regulations, these rules, because this changes the entire landscape. It becomes very important for people to understand that if I am doing a transaction in US, what is SEC saying? Not knowing only SEBI, but even SEC or what UK. And so I worked with Australia, as we spoke about initially. So I worked with Australian geography for 2.5 years. And first thing which I was asked to read about were the regulations affecting the capital markets over there. So see, basically, if you are into that kind of a role, in that kind of a job where you know that in future or in present that there might be transactions, that you might be dealing with global clients, global companies, it is compulsory to understand all these things. Obviously, you asked what are the sources where one can study all these things. There are abundant of resources today. There is no dearth of resource today. There is an kind of information overload. Even just writing a question on a chat GPT will give you good answers to at least start with. But I would rather kind of, if you are dealing in certain geography, go to their official website. For example, if someone wants to learn about Indian regulator, SEBI website would be a good starting point. Same goes for SEC in US. So I think these are things which you cannot escape if you want to build a career into finance, into serious core finance.
Rob, what do you tell the professionals who come to you? What are some of the other ways of broadening their knowledge base and adapting to different market conditions?
I mean, there's so many places where you can do that. I would say, but really, people generally tend to find these things by word of mouth. So executive education or certificates, often the reason you'll do it is because you have a friend or coworker who's done it, and then they'll do it that way. War stories are really powerful, meaning, when have people been through this before? And often you'll find there are speaker series that kind of address that really nicely. There's a boom in podcasts now, which you probably noticed, where you've really got the most wonderful content for free. So take, for instance, the CEO of the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, Nicolai Tangen. He has In Good Company, where he's using his role as the chief investment officer of the world's biggest fund to interview CEOs of some of the greatest companies, available on the web for free. And so you can actually garner experience. It's like being at Harvard Business School, except not going to Boston for 2 years and not paying them a fee. So there's really some wonderful free content out there now that didn't used to be there before the pandemic. And so I see more and more people listening to podcasts. Acquired is a very famous podcast now for technology executives, for instance. And so I think there's more this viral sort of thing happening now where people ask their friends and their coworkers, which podcasts are you listening to? And that's a pretty good way to do lifelong learning as well.
In fact, you mentioned Acquired. I remember there are so many other podcasts that now teams sit together and listen to. And they discuss the podcast. They discuss what were the learnings. They discuss their own situations. So I think nothing beats peer-to-peer interaction, and whether it comes to networking or learning something together, I think it's a different ballgame when you are sitting together as even seasoned professionals and looking at a problem at hand or a challenge or an opportunity at hand. All right, we have one question that has come to us, and Lokesh, why don't you give that a shot? Somebody is asking us, can you provide us some insights into the specific qualities or attributes that hiring managers are looking for in finance and investment management roles today? And what advice would you give to young professional or students concerned about staying relevant?
Yeah, sure. I think it's a great question. I think from our industry perspective, I think at least we, alongside technical and soft skills, we really value a passion for financial markets, curiosity, and adaptability, as I mentioned earlier, and most importantly, strong work ethics. And during interviews, during the recruiting process, we highly prioritize sincerity and assessing the alignment between what you have written on your resume and what's reflecting during the recruitment process. I'll advise all the attendees and the students and young industry folks that please be sincere in terms of what you portray while in the recruiting process, and if you are sincere and demonstrate passion and strong work ethics, I think it will work fine. And nowadays we are also incorporating real life practical assignments more and more into our recruitment process, just to enable the assessment of all the qualities I just mentioned. And it's actually benefiting both us as well as candidate, because candidate get a real life experience as to what it really like working with us, and we also kind of get to assess what it will be like for us. So I think, I think and also, as as I mentioned earlier, success is ultimately contingent on continuous learning, adaptability, and networking. And again, I'm emphasizing, repeating myself, strong work ethics.
Vaibhav, what are you looking for in CVs that land up at your desk?
Okay, so honestly, Mugdha, it's very tough to gauge any candidate in 30 minutes or 1 hour of interview. Also, what Lokesh said is absolutely right. I also look at these kind of things when I am interviewing someone. But I also make it up a point. Either I do it myself, ask the HR of my company to do it, to look at the social media handles, social media channels also. Is a guy relevant, active on LinkedIn? For example, I'm looking at kind of market oriented role or research oriented role. Not that I expect everybody to be, kind of very active on the social media, but today almost everybody is there on LinkedIn. And I really, in the kind of role I am, in the kind of role I'm recruiting for, it is important to know the views. If I don't get anything over there, then I probably also get them to write some notes or some assignments or something like that. As I also initially said, that soft skill is very important, and I try to find out ways today, in today's time, where digital and the social media is so prevalent, that whether this candidate will find a right place in my organization culture or not. So along with the hard skill, what Lokesh absolutely rightly mentioned, I also do have a look at kind of the soft skill aspect, because as I said, in 1 hour I can't make a call someone is fit for my role or not.
It's interesting. You actually are emphasizing on actually meeting candidates. I know of companies that have recently hired graduates for their organization without having met them. So the narrative is changing so rapidly that ultimately, if it is AI having a look at your certifications, they better be very good, or or you need to know how to make the AI work for you.
True.
Rob, I see a smile on your face.
Yeah, no, what I like to do really in these situations, they're very contrived if you're meeting someone for a job interview. So the thing is to drag them off script, essentially. So if I met someone today, I'd ask them what's going on in the market. So what triggered the declines on Monday, do you think? And what's going to happen next? They're probably not going to be super prepared for that question. And then you're going to see the real deal, kind of show, don't tell, I would say. Another thing, I would say, really since the pandemic, the last 5 years, it's become easier and easier to upskill. Not just talking about CFA Institute products, but there've been many products like that. And so when new things happen in the world, like a geopolitical trend or climate change, for instance, it's really become easier and easier to kind of get smart on it pretty quick. And I see many more executives doing these small courses or taking basic Mandarin, for instance. And really the barrier to entry has gone down and down. And so I think more and more people are doing that. But yeah, when it comes to assessing candidates, it's really trying to get the real them. Maybe surprising them with a very current question and see how they perform.
Well, that's a wonderful tip that has been given to people who are asking that question. The last round of comments are also a bunch of questions that have been received on this webinar, which are, of course, a little repetitive because we have already covered them. But if we were to give a synopsis of some sort, then I think it can be summed up very well in the top 3 or 4 tips that each one of you can give them to stay relevant in the financial industry today. Let me start with you, Vaibhav, and then to Rob, and then to Lokesh.
You're right, Mugdha. We have covered a lot of these points, but let me just kind of emphasize on from the priority order wise, 2 most important points is upskilling through the technology. I mean, whatever is currently going on in the technology world, because that's very important. And the second thing, which I kind of place as equally, as point 1 is networking. For people hearing this, I mean, I have changed 4 jobs, and honestly, after the first job, which was a campus placement, all the remaining jobs I've got through networking, and interestingly, all through CFA society meetups, conferences, and all. And a lot of people, youngsters, are very, most people in the finance industries are introverts, so let's accept that. So not a lot of people will want to go out and kind of chat with others, but somewhere you need to get the skill and try to get knowledge about what's happening in the industry. And when you talk to a lot of people kind of face to face, they will remember. If they are recruiting for a position, they will remember you, that yes, I met that guy. And obviously after meeting, you are connected on LinkedIn, you are connected on various social media. So this is how I also got a senior management job in the startup I joined after Edelweiss, Wealth Desk. So, and obviously we got acquired. Now I'm working with PhonePe. So all this has worked actually. So I was 10 years back, I was of this mindset that I don't want to network because I was very scared of talking to people. But eventually now, after 10 years, I can say that it has really and immensely helped me, even though I don't put myself as a very technology, kind of a freak, or I don't know a lot of these things which youngsters might know, but networking has really helped me in my career. So these are the 2 things. There are not many, but I'll let Lokesh and Rob also pitch in quite a few points.
Super. Rob.
Yeah, I'd say we mentioned I think social media a bit earlier. I would say it's not just about being on LinkedIn and what have you. I'd say what I see some of the most effective professionals are really part of the conversation now. So there are not many people create content on LinkedIn, but several do, and certainly that puts you in the conversation. And actually, it's a great way to network in and of itself. People will find you, and you'll find other people. So I find that more and more executives, more and more CEOs certainly are kind of figuring this out and realizing that it's a pretty neat way to amplify the business and get the word out about your products and services.
All right, great points there. Lokesh, last word is yours.
Yeah, I think Rob and Vaibhav covered all the key points. I would just like to say, maintain your passion and persist in challenges. I think that's the main differentiator. It all comes down to that towards the end, whether you're succeeding in a job or starting a firm. It's important to persist when you face challenges. Yeah.
One more point. See, I always tell people to always think at least 3 to 5 years ahead. not thinking what you have currently, but always think that whether your move, whether your decision to pursue something, be it from career wise, certificate wise, whether that would be relevant or make sense 5 years down the line, not now. Now, obviously, but what is going to work in the world in 2029 or 2030? Think from that angle. That is very important.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for this very enlightening session. Thank you for your time. It's clear that the finance industry is in a state of constant evolution, necessitating lifelong learning, and the points you have made will go a long way in helping whoever has joined the webinar today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, our panelists. So, ladies and gentlemen, our panelists have rightly emphasized the importance of certifications and ongoing professional developments for staying ahead in this competitive landscape. CFA Institute is renowned for its rigorous certifications and is globally recognized as the gold standard in investment management. Its programs provide professional skills with comprehensive knowledge and practical skills, preparing them for the challenges of today's finance world. Of course, a heartfelt thanks to all our guests today who all have joined us today. Let me just close by telling you that certifications by CFA Institute, like the CFA program and the other sector specific certifications, are tailored to meet the specific needs of finance. And the global world and the investment management. And it offers a blend of theoretical knowledge and practical application. And these certifications not only enhance your expertise, but also provide global recognition, making them a valuable asset for career advancement transcending boundaries. Thank you for joining this webinar today.